Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video on the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at something really cool. I was lucky enough to be invited to a Elsweyr preview event in central London, and we got to take a look at the new Elsweyr expansion early before it got released. You may have already seen some content out and about it. And I'm going to be talking about, what I'm most looking forward to in Elsweyr and kind of taking a first look at what you can find. So, of course, the first thing that you'll probably be expecting is talking about the Necromancer class. Now, this is a big thing for a lot of people, myself included. I'm very much looking forward to the Necromancer class. It's kind of like they tried to take what went badly with the Warden and fix it. If you don't know, the Warden was kind of like a new class they introduced and it kind of did everything really well. The Necromancer is not the same as that. The Necromancer is going to have very specific uses. If you want to see more details on like the skill lines and things like that, Dawn Whisper, who you may know as my other half, has done a video on the Necromancer skill lines and the traits and things. So if you want to see what they're all about, feel free to check out the video here. I'll link it in the cards in the top right hand corner. But I'm mostly going to be talking about not the skills per se, but kind of what they are going to entail. So the first thing is kind of the Necromancer is not going to be absolutely amazing at everything like the Warden was. Rich Lambert did say that they were looking specifically at what went well with the Warden and what went badly and try and kind of remove some of those flaws and make the Necromancer a lot more fun to play. For me, personally, I'm most looking forward to the tank and healing specs. I think they're going to be really cool. You may have seen like the Bone Colossus, stuff like that. It looks really good. But the main reason I'm actually looking forward to the Necromancer is I quite like doing like RP when I play. Like I role play my own character. I don't do any interaction with other players. I very much played the game solo, but for reference, my main character is a vampire Nightblade who is also part of the Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood. He's a full-on I am evil character. And I loved like breaking into people's houses and stealing from them and then selling it off, like for no reason other than just because I found it fun. And the Necromancer, I think, is going to follow along that same line because necromancy is outlawed in most places in Tamriel. Doing necromancy in a public place, like a law-abiding place, you are likely to get arrested. And I think that's really cool because it adds kind of like an extra layer to the dynamic interaction between the game itself and you as a player. I always found that being a vampire in like a public place was something that was a bit out of place. Like, for example, you can go to like Vocal Guard or you can go to Skywatch, transform into a werewolf, for example. No one cares. Necromancer, you start summoning the undead in the middle of the town, you're going to get jumped by a guard. Now, I would hope that this would be implemented in more ways in the future. This sets like a really good groundwork for how I think it should be done. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And of course, not just talking about the Necromancer, the main thing that you're going to be experiencing is, of course, Elsweyr. Elsweyr is going to be a very interesting place. Of course, it starts off with a new storyline, introduces a few new characters and some returning as well. Of course, you may know of Abner Tharn, who, if you've played the main questline for Elder Scrolls Online, you will of course know who he is. If not, he's basically it's a bit hard to explain without spoiling it, really. He's a bit of a difficult fellow, but he does return for the Elsweyr storyline. And we also meet a new character, Chimera, who is the Khajiit NPC that you do see in the trailer for Elsweyr. Both her and Abner Tharn visit one of the dragon tombs and use a dragon stone to accidentally release dragons into the wilds of Elsweyr, which we will touch on later on. But the main villain, from what it appears, is Euraxia Tharn, who is actually Abner Tharn's half-sister, who is kind of like the unrightful queen of Rimmen due to a previous invasion in the lore. I won't go too in detail on the lore because it's not really applicable for me, but you know, if you want to know about that stuff, there's always like the wiki that you can find stuff on, and there'll be links in description as well for that sort of thing. But that's going to be the main kind of enemy, and of course a lot of them are going to be necromancers, which is really, really cool. I'm mostly looking forward to visiting some of the new locations in Elsweyr. One of the things you'll see in the footage I've got here is visiting Riverhold, which is kind of one of the new starter locations that you go to. So like when you finally finish the tutorial, you get to go to Riverhold and speak with some of the Khajiits and things there. The other thing, of course, is we get to see new Khajiiti forms. You get to see things like the Alfiq. If you don't know, Khajiit's form that they take is based on the moon phase of when they are born. Previously, we've only really seen one of the forms, which is the standard Khajiit you will recognize from, say, Skyrim or Elder Scrolls Online up until this point. We got to meet a few of those in just the opening sequence, actually, which is really, really nice. And I'm sure there'll be more types around as well. And of course, one of the other new kind of introductions is, of course, the dragons. The dragons are going to be a major part of the Elsweyr expansion. And a lot of people were worried about the lore friendliness of it. Rich Lambert did specify that it is going to be lore friendly. They have thought about how it's going to interact with the lore, and they were also discussing with like the main Elder Scrolls team as well to kind of make sure that it fits in there, which is really, really good. But the dragons are really important. They're kind of similar to how the dolmens work, except that they aren't static in location. The dragons will fly about throughout Elsweyr, and you will have to hunt them down and kill them in a large group because they're not going to be easy to kill. So that's something to consider. And on top of that, you do also have the Sunspire trial, which is going to be a new 12-man full trial. And they say full in kind of air quotes, but it's basically like they're trying to say it's a big thing. All of the bosses are dragons. And not only are they all dragons, they all have their own unique hard modes, which is super, super interesting and really, really cool, because a lot of people don't like the fact that everyone seems to follow the same mechanic. This is going to mean that you're going to have a lot to learn, and you're going to need a lot of practice to like fully complete this, but it's going to be so much fun. And speaking of something I mentioned earlier, there is a new tutorial in the game. So one of the main gripes with the game, I think, is that the tutorials never seem to explain all of the mechanics very well or in a very easy to understand way. The new Elsweyr tutorial is really, really well done. It makes explaining things really clear. I do also have footage of this as well. I started my character as a brand new one, so as if you have started the game for the first time. And one of the first things you do is you go and have like trial combat with one of the masters. And they will teach you like how to block and how to free yourself and how to do like heavy attacks and stuff. And the thing is, they force you to do it at the first few times to make sure you know how to do it, which I think is a really good improvement, because the tutorial is kind of the main thing that people are going to be doing, and it's important to have that down so that new players don't get confused or miss mechanics that are crucial to the game, really. So I'm really happy about that. The other thing, of course, is the PvP changes. So there's the new PvP modes artifacts, which if you've seen, there's going to be artifacts around where you have to pick them up and then you become super strong. And if you don't kill enemies, it starts killing you, and you have to kind of kill as many people as you can to hold on to the artifact. And of course, they did also mention they're going to split the Imperial city off from Cyrodiil. So depending on which you prefer, you don't have to do them all at the same time, and they've changed the way campaigns work a bit as well. I'm not too versed on the PvP stuff, so I won't get into details, but I'm sure there's more information out there that you can have a look at. And finally, my favorite changes, I think, guild changes. They are introducing the guild search. So if you are a new player and you don't know anybody in the game and you want to find a group of people to play with, you're going to be able to search for a guild, and guilds will be able to list themselves on this search and kind of specify what type of things they're doing. So, you know, if you're an RP guild, you can list that, and then someone who wants to do RP can just look for an RP guild and they can find someone to play with. And I think that's really, really good. And following on from that, the guild trader will now have a search bar, which is a very, very needed change. But yeah, so I hope you guys liked what you saw. This is kind of a first look at the sort of things you can find. Like I said before, if you want to see the Necromancer overview, check out Dawn Whisper's channel. She's also got another video where she goes into more detail about some of the storyline stuff. So if you want to know about the main storyline I mentioned earlier, check out her video because she's got some stuff on that as well. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.